different type of storage options. But now we are going to understand the database related options and how we will be able to do the analytics with it, right? So that said, let us understand about Azure Cosmos DB. The reason why I thought to pick this Azure Cosmos DB as a first, because this is a kind of most popular database option, because it helps us to connect with several different type of databases. So Azure Cosmos DB is basically globally distributed multi-model database. When I say multi-model database, that means it supports various things. For example, key value. So as I said, that it is globally distributed. Okay, it is a multi-model database, and when I say multi-model database, that means it support like the key value, graph, column family data model, document data model, like that. So there are different data model which is support. Okay, and that is the reason why it supports like the graph database, like the for example, the Gremlin, MongoDB. With the help of it, you can also enjoy the SQL database. You can also have like in case if you wanted to convert your database, or if you wanted to parse your database base and send in the form of file, you will be able to do that using XML. You will be able to do that using JSON format, like that. So there are different things which you will be able to do. So it is a multi-model database and support document, key value, graph, and column family data model. Azure Cosmos DB also provides the comprehensive service level agreement for throughput and throughput, availability, and consistency. So these are the one is the throughput is the guarantee, latency, availability, and consistency. So these are the key four factors which every organization look for when they wanted to interact with the databases, because the data is the most expensive and most valuable part for any company, right? And in case if you don't have the throughput, in case if you don't have the latency, the availability problem, the consistency problem, nobody would like to enjoy that type of system. And as the IT system is growing more complex and complex, definitely these are the key parameter which everybody look for, right? So therefore Azure Cosmos DB is very important option in case if you are going for the cloud, right? So Azure Cosmos DB is flexible. It at lowest level, the Azure Cosmos DB store the data in the ARS format. When I say ARS format, that is atomic record sequence format. And what is this atomic record sequence format? Perhaps we will be able to understand only when, in case if we will deep dive your the databases. So Azure Cosmos DB support schema-less data. When I say schema-less data, that means that you are not restricted with the schema. Normally for years together, like we know that all the relational databases are schema based database, right? So when it comes to the schema-less data, this let you build highly responsive and always on application. So when I say always on application, so that means your availability, right? So it is an always on application to support constantly changing data. So that is where your Azure Cosmos DB comes in the picture, which is the schema-less data. Point number one. Point number two is it is an always on data. It is highly responsive and support the always on application, right? So therefore I said that it supports the throughput, latency, availability, and consistency. Remember these four parameters that which are the key factor of our this the Cosmos DB databases. Now when I say data model, so data model, when I say document data model, so document data model means what? So say the API, and remember that Cosmos DB support the 6 different type of the APIs, right? So when I say document data model, so document data model support what SQL and MongoDB, right? So and the columnar data model means the Cassandra. The graph data model means Gremlin, and the key value data model means the the table based API, and one more which is like relatively less popular, but yes, that is also there. That is etcd API. So these are the data models. So document data model for SQL and MongoDB, columnar, which is only one, Cassandra, graph, which is also again one, Gremlin, and the key value is for two, for data, for table table API and etcd, right? So these are the 6 different types. Okay, now which API we need to consider? That is also a key factor. Okay, so in case if I want to tell you that which API to use, so if I say which API to use, which API to use when? So let us understand this. So suppose in case if you are building a new application, right? So if you are building a new application, then you need to decide. So there are two things here. One is there is a possibility that you can build a new application. There is a possibility that you can build. You do not have the new application. It is an already existing application. Okay. So in case if it is an already existing application, then in case if the existing platform is based on the Cassandra or MongoDB or Gremlin, accordingly you will be able to choose your APIs. Okay. Now, in case if your application is not, is a new application, then it comes that, okay, perhaps you need to leverage existing, the team skill. You wanted to leverage open source ecosystem. You wanted to leverage for example, multi-cloud strategy. You can adopt, say, key benefit of the Cosmos DB. So in case if you are interested for all these, like, so you wanted to build an application using open source. You wanted to, you have in your ecosystem, say, multi-cloud strategy. In case if you wanted to adopt these things, right, then you can go for interop APIs. When I say interop APIs, so that is in the three different, three type of database support the interops, interop API. One is Cassandra, one is MongoDB, and one is Gremlin. SQL don't support it. So in case if you are going for interop API, then you can choose these three: Cassandra, MongoDB, and Gremlin. Okay, but in case if you wanted to, uh, you know, uh, your your objective is to that, okay, you wanted to have a support on the native SQL language format, right? Your objective is that, okay, you wanted to use the native SQL form. Your then you can go for, then do not go for the interop API. Rather, you can go for the core SQL API. Okay, so core SQL API is fall in a different section. For example, you are, because most of the people are more familiar with SQL rather than any other, right? So that is the truth. So therefore, people still wanted to go for SQL, right? So in case if you wanted to go for SQL, you wanted to use the benefit of SQL because that is also a popular and very efficient database, and various type of relational databases exist, in the current industry. For example, you have the Oracle, you have say Sybase, you have say DB2 like that. So there are different databases. So if you wanted to use any of the any of these type of databases, definitely you wanted to go for the SQL. Or in case if you wanted to go for the SQL server, uh, or any form of SQL, then you will be able to go for this. But in case if you wanted to go for if you wanted to adopt Cassandra or MongoDB or Gremlin, then you can choose the interop API. Okay. So for existing application, it is straightforward that whatever the application you have, accordingly only you will be able to switch. You don't have choice. But in case if you wanted to go for new, in case if you are building a new application, you are setting up a new thing, then you can opt for that, whether you wanted to go for interop API or you wanted to go for the SQL API. Okay. So we discussed about new application and for existing application. Last time we also discussed, I think in one of the class we also discussed about this a kind of strategy for migration. Okay. Now so Azure Cosmos DB is a good choice for any new web application, any mobile application, any gaming application or IoT application, where the automatic where the data scales at a at a rapid rate automatically. So accordingly, you wanted to scale your database, and you also wanted to ensure that your performance is predictable, and you also wanted to ensure that the response time is like in the milliseconds, and that can happen when you are choosing the Cosmos DB database, which is schema free database. Azure Cosmos DB is globally distributed multi-model database, as I said, and it comes with different type of flavors. Now we discussed. Okay, now let us have a little deeper understanding for say different type of API. So we need to now discuss Azure Cosmos DB Cassandra API. What is this? Azure Cosmos DB Cassandra API. Okay. Second. Okay. So before we move to the second, let us discuss Azure Cosmos DB Cassandra API. So this, the Cosmos DB Cassandra API can be used as the data store for application which is written in the Apache Cassandra. So if your application is written in the Apache Cassandra, you can use Apache, the Cassandra API. This means that by using the Apache driver compliant with Cassandra APIs, and when I say Cassandra query language, similar to say we have the SQL, like so similar to SQL, we also have a Cassandra query language, which is known as CQL. So the CQL, in case if you are using the CQL, if you wanted to use that, if your existing application is written in the Apache Cassandra and you want to go for the Cassandra query language, then you can go for this. Okay, so in many years, in many cases, you can switch from using Apache Cassandra to using Azure Cosmos DB Cassandra API just by changing the connection string. So there will not be much difficulty in case if you wanted to go for the migration. So from your existing database, you can go for Azure Cosmos DB just by changing the connection string. This API stores the data in the column-oriented schema format. So column-oriented schema format is again, a new technology. So earlier also some of the databases were like the column-oriented, databases. But we will, discuss in the detail about the databases when we will come in the the database chapter. Okay, so currently you understand that this Cassandra is related with the Cassandra is the column oriented schema database. Okay, now Apache Cassandra offer a highly distributed horizontally scaling approach to store the large volume of data while offering a flexible approach to a column oriented schema. Cassandra API, yes, okay, structured. See, sorry about. See, all these databases are structured. When we are saying the structured, right? So databases are normally structured. Okay, it is not that they are not structured, right? But so we discussed about when we discussed about the storage, Azure storage, right? At that time, we understood. We discussed about the blob storage, which is unstructured and like this, right? Now we are talking about databases. So the databases are either schema less or schema free, right? But when we are saying because Azure Cosmos DB is flexible enough, it is a multi-model database, as I said. So therefore you can have an integration with any of the API. Okay, and therefore we are saying that. So right now the question is not the structured or unstructured. Right now we are trying to understand the different APIs. Okay, so here, and which database option is more easier in case if you wanted to go for the migration. Okay, so here we know that the Azure Cosmos DB Azure Cosmos DB Cassandra API, you can connect just by changing the connection string. So for example, you have your existing database, your on-prem application, and you wanted to migrate it to the cloud. You just need to change your connection string, and that using that you will be able to integrate your existing application to the cloud. Okay, now Cassandra API in Azure Cosmos DB align with the philosophy of NoSQL database. Okay, of course it is, right? Because when we say SQL database, so there are only two options. SQL is we know that it is in the industry from many years now, and these databases like the Cosmos DB, when it comes like the Cassandra database, so these are NoSQL database. Cassandra API is a wire protocol compatible. So with again, just now you just understand that which protocol, as we in the past also when we discussed about the storage, so we discussed about different type of protocol, right? So for example, the blob database supports the HTTP and HTTPS. Similar to this, the Cosmos support the wire. You should consider Cassandra API if you want to benefit the elasticity and full managed nature of Azure. Azure Cosmos DB, because when I'm saying the elasticity and scalability, so that is also the important point. So as I said, that this support the horizontal scaling, and horizontal scaling is always popular, right? Because the moment your workload increases, you will be able to have within the cloud, you will be able to have a copy of your database. So you will have another copy which is free, So it is, it will have the same structure, but your data can transfer. Can go and transfer to that. So your entire structure of your database you can replicate. But when I'm saying structure of the database, that does not mean the data of it. So when you are doing the horizontal scaling, so your structure of the database you can replicate, and then your new data can start going to, flowing towards the new, newly created instance of the database. Okay, and so the Cassandra API, you don't need to manage the OS, Java VM, garbage collector, read write performance, node cluster. You don't need to do that, because the I think Venkata is going and coming very frequently. I think he has a connection problem. Okay, so this means on Cassandra API you don't need to manage the OS. Okay, and because it is completely managed. Okay, so okay. Venkata, if your connection is not stable, is it so? Okay, I think he's not able to hear me. Okay. Now the next API is Azure Cosmos DB API for MongoDB. So the MongoDB makes it easy to use the Cosmos DB as if it were a MongoDB database. You can leverage your Cosmos DB experience and continue to use your favorite MongoDB drivers, your SDKs, your tools, by pointing your application to the API for MongoDB account connection string. Okay, so again, this will also, is very easy. So in case if your existing application is based on MongoDB, then you can, which is on on-prem, then you can, enjoy your, you can enjoy the same when you are moving to, to the cloud. So there is no problem in that. This API store is, store data in the document structure, okay, via BSON format. So BSON is a format which is, which the MongoDB uses. Okay, and as I said that it is in the document structure. So I explained you, right? So in case if you are going for, say, SQL and MongoDB, these are the two databases which are based on the document data model, right? Cassandra is columnar, Gremlin is graph. So just now I mentioned about Cassandra DB, Cassandra API, which is columnar, the database. That means the model which it supports is the columnar model. However, so it has the column oriented schema. However, in case of MongoDB, so the MongoDB is a column, is not column based. Okay, it is a document data model. Okay, so therefore, uh, uh, and normally, wherever you are having a document structured database, so that support the BSON format of the data. It is compatible with the MongoDB wire protocol. Okay, however, it does not use any native MongoDB related code. So the API is a great, this API is a great choice if you want to use the broader MongoDB ecosystem and skills without compromising on using the Azure Cosmos DB features like the scaling, high availability, geo replication, like that. So all these features are, um, supported by the MongoDB application. So inherently, all these databases, because the Cosmos DB inherently support the four things, right? So all these inherent APIs will also be supporting that, but some of the application are more towards the the consistency, more towards high availability, and more towards, say, geo replication, right? So one of MongoDB is one of them. So in case if your need is for I mean, in case if your existing application is MongoDB, definitely you will be able to use it. In case if your need is say even far better, high availability, uh, horizontal scaling, uh, you know the uh, auto scaling, then then MongoDB would be a relatively better option. So you can use the existing existing MongoDB apps with this API for MongoDB just by changing the connection string. So again, with Cosmos DB, in most of the application, with most of the APIs, you will have this facility that you will be able to just change the connection string, and you will be able to change your, you will be able to connect your database with the Azure. Okay. Now coming to the Gremlin, so this API allow to make use of graph. So like the Cassandra, we saw that in the Cassandra we were having the SQL queries, right? So we were having in the Cassandra SQL queries. Similarly, in similarly for Cosmos DB, for MongoDB. For MongoDB, we saw. So Cosmos DB were supporting SQL. It was like schema free, right? What else it was? What else? It is column oriented. What else? What else? It is, it was say no SQL. So all of these, even MongoDB is also like the same, but okay. So now, and it was not having any need for the, yes,
Always
and it was not having any need for, sorry, what?
always on, like we can increase the columns number growing in the database.
Yes, always on. What was next? It, with Cassandra, you don't need to manage any OS, Java VM, garbage collector, read, related things, which are the basic things which normally, is a kind of overhead for any database administrator, right? So you don't need to do these things. So you don't need to you don't need to manage the OS, Java VM, garbage collector, read write, and the node and clusters, etc. Then with the MongoDB, what was this? So if you have your existing application as a MongoDB, you will be able to use it, and you will be able to enjoy the same SDK and the tools. And this is a document-based data model. Second, it was what we discussed. It is JSON format. Of course, no SQL. Then what? The key feature of the MongoDB was it support the horizontal scaling. Okay, geo replication. So and high availability. So geo replication, high availability. transparent shared management. Right? What else? And in both the cases, whether you are using Cassandra or whether you are using MongoDB, just by changing the connection string, you can you can the database in the cloud. So when, in case if you are doing the migration, you don't need much headache. So you can connect just by changing the connection string. Right? So okay. Good. Okay.
Girish,
Yes.
this Azure application and availability, is it not feasible for all the other kinds of databases like Cassandra and Gremlin?
Yes. Okay. So the when I'm talking about the Cosmos DB, this is the parent, right? So in the parent, I mentioned about the key advantage of it is the throughput, latency, availability, and consistency.
Okay.
This this was the guarantee. So when at the parent level we are saying that throughput, latency, availability, and consistency is guaranteed, that means that this is inherited to all the things, right? So whatever whatever the internal, like, if I'm talking about say SQL or no SQL or whatever, which are related with the Azure Cosmos DB, there all these things are guaranteed. But when we are putting some key points here, say for example geo replication, high availability, like this, these are the further advantages when you are going for a particular type of DB. So every DB has their own features. If everything is same with with everyone, then people will not care, right? So what is the differentiating factors? For example, here you don't have the maintenance related problem. So lot of overhead will go off. Here you have even further. So this also supports like the high availability. This also supports like the the horizontal scaling. But when you are going for the MongoDB, it is an added advantage that if you will get an extra, right? And that's the reason why some of the features are said explicitly. But nowadays it's a kind of competitive market. So even if somebody is saying something, the in more or less in some time the other will also start claiming. So but yes, when we are trying to differentiate that, okay, in case if my focus is more towards this, then perhaps I will choose this, right? If my focus is towards say the no maintenance type of thing, right, then perhaps I can go for this. So but more or less, these are the features which are available. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
Now, if we are talking about say Gremlin, so before I talk on the Gremlin, I think I need to change. Okay. So Gremlin database, or with say Cassandra, sorry, with say Cosmos DB. The third API is the Gremlin API. Okay. So now the Gremlin, it has the, the first thing is that it has the graph queries. Why? Because it is a graph. I mean, it is a, this API support the graph based database, right? So okay, so it stores the data as edges and vertices. So when we are talking about, say, SQL, we know that it is in the tabular format. It has the schema, and if we wanted to connect with the SQL database, first we need to connect with the schema. When we are talking about NoSQL databases, these are the schema-less databases, but still it has some kind of table structure. Now, when we are talking about the graph databases, these databases store the data in the edges and vertices, not in the form of tabular format. So use this API for scenario involving involving dynamic data and data with complex relational, data with the complex relations, data that is too complex to be modeled with the relational databases. If you have such type of need where the data is too complex to be modeled with the relational database, you can go for this type of data. This type of DB, which is on the complex relational data, which manages the complex relation of the data. So it has the complex relation of data. When it is not possible to model the data with the relational databases, then you can go for Gremlin. Now, next is, if you wanted to use your Gremlin ecosystem and skill. So of course, the skill is also a limiting factor. Your current ecosystem is also a limiting factor. So therefore, whenever we are talking about it, we also talk about what ecosystem you already have, what skills you already have. Accordingly, you will be able to switch, right? You will not be able to change from on-prem to the cloud, instantly. You need to adopt it, acquire the skill, do something, and then you will be able to switch on. So that is how it happens. So in case if we don't want much gap, then we can, and we want to realize the benefits of the cloud, then we need to take care of the current ecosystem understanding and the skill understanding as an architect, right? So the Azure Cosmos DB Gremlin API combine the power of the graph database algorithms with highly scalable managed infrastructure. So see, here this is also highly scalable, and but here the need is different. So the high scalability, the managed infrastructure, both are here, okay, but here the need is different. Okay, so it provide a unique, flexible solution to most common data problems associated with lack of flexibility and relational approach. Okay, and it supports the OLTP scenarios. All OLTP scenarios it supports, and therefore, the Azure Cosmos DB Gremlin API is like for a, for a complex data structure. Okay, you use it for a complex data structure. So the Azure Cosmos DB Gremlin API is based on a framework which is Apache Tinkerpop Graph Computing Framework. Apache Tinkerpop Graph Computing Framework. This is the name of the framework. What is the name? Apache Tinkerpop Graph Computing Framework. So, and this is also, as I said, highly scalable and managed. But the next form, okay, so the next format or the next form which it supports, the Gremlin API, that also supports the Apache Spark and Graph frames. So these are, this is something related to the Gremlin API. Now we talk about the table API. Okay. So, okay, who can tell me that which data model it supports? The table API is based on which which model?
Key.
Yes, key value.
Key
Right?
value.
Yes, so it supports the key value databases. Yeah, key value pair, correct. Okay, so this is your key value pair based model. Okay. We will just be winding up in just say 2 minutes, but let me quickly complete this, the table API. So the table API overcome. Okay, so the table API supports the key value format. If you are currently using the Azure table storage, then you may see some limitation in latency, scaling, throughput, global distribution, index management, and low query performance. So in case if you are using the Azure table storage, you will see these problems. But the table API overcome these limitations, and it is recommended to migrate your app if you want to use the benefit of Azure Cosmos DB. Table API only support. Then you can go for the table API. Okay. So in case if you are using the Azure table storage, it has various limitations, and therefore the better option would be to go for the table API. Okay. In case if you want, in case if you wanted to go for, in case if you wanted to uh, go for this Cosmos DB. Okay. Now, again, it supports the OLTP scenarios, and application written for the Azure table storage can migrate to the table API with little code change and take advantage of premium capabilities. Okay. So therefore, you will be able to use your, to avoid this limitation, you will be able to use this table API. Okay. Now, how we will do, the capacity planning and all those things. This is not part of this session, but yes, we will discuss it once we will do the migration, database migration or the cloud migration related uh, course. Okay, so at that time we will discuss the capacity planning. So with this, I think we have discussed all our APIs, right? Now the next we will discuss about the Azure SQL database. Okay. So till then, so that this will be our next chapter. We will discuss it. So in case if you have any question quickly, you will be able to ask.